TopMedTalk.
Hi, it's Desiree Chappell here and the TopMedTalk team. I hope you're staying safe during these times. We wanted to say thank you for downloading TopMedTalk. This piece is not specific to the COVID-19 crisis, but we are covering it daily. If you want more of that information, you can find it on TopMedTalk.com. Now, in the meantime, we are continuing to champion perioperative medicine like we always have done. And we're working with our academic partners as the crisis continues to bring you our normal scheduled content. We also want to say thank you to our sponsors, specifically Edwards Life Sciences, for their generous support. I hope you enjoy this podcast. Welcome to Top Med Talk. We are here in Chicago at the Society of Cardiovascular Anesthesiology 41st Annual Meeting. I'm Desiree Chappell, host and managing editor of Top Med Talk, and I'm joined by Monty Mythen, editor-in-chief. Hello, Monty.
Hey, Desiree. Great to be. I'm good. We're having a sort of plate fest here at the moment. I think they're building up to having sort of some Greek wedding plate smashing contest. Is that right?
That could be fun later.
Is this traditional at the SCA?
This is how we roll.
This is how the SCA rolls. Okay. All right. Well, so Saul Aronson also joining us. Hello, Saul. How are you? And we're joined by one of our very special guests, Dr. Tjorvi Perry. And you are technically from the department, or you're in the Department of Anesthesia at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. Yep. So the topic of your talk tomorrow is actually on burnout and wellness. So okay.
This is, did you have a chance to talk to Sasha?
We did. Yeah.
So we're doing this together, and we came up with this idea last year. I said I would do it. I'm representing the burned out physician whose mechanism to deal with things is anger and frustration.
Yeah. She said men.
Men?
That's the way men deal with it. That's the way men deal with burnout.
I don't know. Well, I mean,
She was quite binary about that. I sympathise with it, but I think that we're all on a spectrum of our masculinity and femininity.
Yeah. And I would agree. If you want to generalize, the male version of a defense mechanism is lashing outward, and the mechanism for women is probably to go inward. Mm-hmm. So I said I would do this, but only if we can sit in chairs and have two ferns on the stage. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's hilarious.
I don't know
Are
if
you going to record this too?
I don't know.
You need to YouTube that one.
So I don't know. She's for those. I'm going to follow her lead on this.
For those of you listening, there are two ferns right now on the podcast.
I mean, I applaud the SCA. Good for them to put this on a platform. Yeah. And however it goes, so the idea is to have a discussion about what happened to me, what happened to her, and then there's going to be some background information on what this all means. So I'm hoping for a good, open, honest discussion. And this is I have no slides. There was no preparation other than the last 47 years of my life.
Yeah. So give us just like a quick little clip of what your experience with this.
So my experience with burnout and wellness, and it's hard because I think you lose some people right away when you start using those words. It's too bad because what it means for me is maybe different than what it means for somebody else, and I would hate for people to walk away from this conversation before we can connect. So if there are other words that people would rather use, that's fine with me. But I dealt with anxiety and depression for a while. In my career, and then I put myself in a situation where I left academics, I left the things that I knew from my friends, and I went into private practice, chasing something that, in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have, but with the experience that I had, I'd probably do it again. So I'm somewhere in between.
That's an insight.
Yeah. So, but regardless, that. I took over. So it was private practice. It was a very busy. It was a very busy department, and we did a lot of cardiac surgery. And then I took over as the chief of the division. And then it felt like overnight it changed. The patient profile changed from. We were doing bread and butter cabs, 90-minute AVRs, from skin to ICU. I mean, it was good and efficient, and it's what I wanted. But it changed to 25% heart failure surgery. And we started putting in VADs and more transplants, and it just got busier and busier, and people got sicker and sicker, and and it wasn't like nothing happened, but I was I was acting in ways that I didn't like, other people certainly didn't like, and it was directed outward, and so my journey.
Can I ask a question? Was it? Lots of us have been through this sort of thing. Was it how hard you were working, or were you questioning the value of the work you were doing for some people?
It's such an insightful question, because it's not the amount of work. It's not the hours I'm putting in. I probably do the same now. But it got into that self-worth. Like, what if I can't do this? I mean, I could see, we were developing guidelines and trying to implement technology, and I could just see these patients coming through that weren't getting the care that they deserved. And I take it too seriously, or maybe I was too close to it. I just wasn't able to objectify it, and so I took it. I internalized all of it, and now you're living in a chronic state of shamefulness and fear, and the way I pushed away from that was to push people away. And so, so I isolated. I don't think my family liked me very much at the time, and my colleagues, and I own that and I accept that, and but that was part of the journey that now allows me to see things in a different way and appreciate the things that I do. And it was almost a recommitment to medicine after I came back.
Do you think, by the way, thank you, very moving personal story and reflection. Yeah. Do you think those of us in the cardiac anesthesia sandbox, that domain, are more susceptible, more vulnerable to that story? And I say that maybe it's self-serving, maybe it's inappropriately distorted, but what we do is hard, just hard from the context of what you just described. Do you think it's fair to say that there's a greater risk of a cardiac anesthesiologist moreover than a non-cardiac anesthesiologist for that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it.
I think so. Monty, do you think so?
I think possibly, yeah.
That it's worse for cardiac anesthesia. Is that what you're saying?
I feel a little uneasy saying this because it is so self-serving. But, everybody works harder than everybody else. That's, you start with that truth that I work harder than you and you work harder than Monty and Monty works harder than Desiree. And once we all establish that as a fact, we can get along because everybody works harder than everybody else. But I do think there's something unique about the space of cardiac anesthesia as it's evolved in the last few years that make it different. I'll throw that out there and welcome comment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we live in I grew in that sandbox. I grew up in that sandbox. And in that sandbox, it's predominantly men. And it's, as far as I can remember, and it's a lot of surgeons. Well, it's everybody that uses that mechanism that's kind of outward. And so you learn this pretty quickly. You learn how to protect yourself, and you learn how to give it back. And and in Boston, it's you put your armor on and you go to work, and you get dinged, and and then you go back the next day, right?
And then you come back the next day,
and but it happens so slowly, and you're so committed, right? There's such a sunk cost bias to this whole thing. I think back now to events that happened early on in my medical career, and I like to make up in my head anyway that a normal person, I'm doing air quotes now, would have walked away, would have said, I don't think this is for me. But I didn't, right? Because I the hours that I had put in, and the energy that I had expended, and the commitments that I had made, it just wasn't going to work to walk away. And so what do you do? What do you do as a 30-something-year-old? Do you put your head down and you keep going, or do you and now it's different. Now I understand techniques that I can use to check in and see what's going on. And so wellness for me has become, it's evolving and it continues to evolve. But for me, it's not people. It's in our language to ask if we're happy.
Yeah.
And I'll be perfectly honest. I think I've given up on happiness like a long time ago. I'm not sure. I don't know what it means. I don't know how to answer it. So wellness for me is, can I sit with the things that I'm feeling? So if I'm happy, great, I can sit with that. But if I'm suffering, I can sit with that too. Sometimes I can't. Yeah. Sometimes it's too painful and I have to look away. But that's the wellness piece for me. So I used to think, am I exercising? Am I eating well? Are these all the things that, am I taking care of myself? And for me, exercising was, can I lift more than I lifted yesterday? Or can I ride my bike faster than I rode it yesterday? Or can I run this 5K faster? And that's not self-care. It's fun. It's fine. I'm not saying it's not fine, but it's not self-care.
Yeah. What do you think, Monty?
Is the cardiothoracic thing, you mentioned there's a lot of men around. A lot of behavior patterns, is it machismo? Is it kind of, guerrilla stuff?
I grew up, around Larry Cohn. It doesn't get much worse than that. A wonderful surgeon, but
I was going to say, I don't know him, but I can only imagine.
But the stuff, the stuff he says is just, it's.
But I don't think
it's traumatic,
But I don't think that it's. It's funny. I hear you.
But
guys
that's
talking about this.
It's very generational. To be fair, he came from a generation where that was, the way it was.
That's all. We have that conversation a lot. So my experience is very different. So not from academics. I've been in a community hospital as a CRNA for 10 years doing hearts the whole time. Totally know the man thing. Totally know the, dealing with putting your armor on every day and just dealing with it and having to give it back. But I also, I am not dedicated to heart. I didn't do only hearts. I did everything else in the OR every day. And I think burnout is ubiquitous. And I think it's because our jobs are hard. In healthcare, I think it's all over. And, you're talking about cardiac anesthesiology. Maybe you're just compared to other anesthesiologists or compared to other physicians. But, work a day as a nurse on the floor with 20 patients trying to get them all out, and people are screaming at you saying you're not doing a good job and you have to wipe a couple more butts. Like, there's some serious burnout when it comes to that. And so is it worse than anybody else? I don't know, but.
Well, I think the attrition rates are disturbingly high. So I think
for cardiac anesthesia.
In medicine in the broadest sense, and I don't mean medicine that by being doctor-physician medicine. Okay. I think in healthcare delivery,
for sure.
In an acute hospital setting, the attrition rates appear to be disturbingly high in many places. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to look seriously about that. We're in the health business. We're unhealthy in our behavior patterns. We're unhealthy with regards to looking after ourselves, and therefore, by default, we're probably not doing the best medicine we could do. And
I'm not sure that we are. We talk about putting our patients first, and I wonder about that.
Yeah.
I wonder about that. I wonder if we put our colleagues first, if that would trickle down to the patient. And I'm told that there are institutions that are focusing more on, colleague interaction, and that is part of taking care of the patient.
So when I keep talking about it as though I'm 90 or something, but when I started in medicine,
he's 30 something. Remember
exactly.
that?
40, I'm 40 something. 40
something. I should be so.
In my very early years of medicine in the UK, we were at the sort of tail end of the post-Second World War, and a lot of military had been through, and we had doctors' messes. We had people looking after us the whole time. They would make sure that they worked as hard. We almost never went home, but when we were in-house, we were fed, we were watered. We had playrooms. It was kind of like you were well looked at, you were cared for. There was people caring for you, and you had quite a lot of downtime, even though you were in the house a lot. Was it better? Was it worse? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, that's a danger going down memory lane.
We
always
but there was
seem better than it probably was.
But I'm not sure we should go back there. But there were people. There was a lot of caring about us.
I'm sure there was a lot of other issues that were all wrapped around into that.
Yeah, all right.
Too.
That's probably a bad analogy.
but that said,
they did make sure we get fed and watered, for example, which they don't anymore.
So I'll throw this out
because they're wiping other people's bottoms and taking care and doing all this stuff and doing computer work.
Exactly.
That said, an unintended consequence of the tools and technologies is that we become less personal. And I do remember those days when we would spend 36 hours, in a building on a shift. There was such a special camaraderie, and I know I'm making it sound more wonderful than it was, because at the time we were just tired and we were always sleep deprived. But we've lost that, and somewhere along the way in our attempt to be better at what we do.
I don't want to go back to the 36 hours, but it was okay to allow people enough time to eat and drink and go to the lavatory,
right,
etc. And some places, that's what gets people down as well. They say, I'm just not getting... This is not humane.
Right.
It's not. It's true. It is so true.
Some people listen and say, no, that's not true. That is true, isn't it?
That you don't even have time to go to the bathroom. You don't have time to eat. And
hydrate.
And it takes you down after so long. I mean, just in where I've worked, I mean, if it's a busy day, there's nobody to get you out. Right. I mean, routinely you hear of people in anesthesia getting their lunch in like 10 minutes.
Right.
Eating between cases. They run to the cases. There's nobody to get them out to go to the bathroom. Right. I mean, that's just anesthesia. That's not the broad scope of everybody else that's working all day.
Well, thank goodness we're shining a light on this. I don't think we will fix this, but thank goodness we're shining a light on this. We had a very interesting segue earlier when we were talking to Sasha about how industries figured this out. I love the Google analogy where, they have a gym on campus. They have a running track. They expect people to just have me time.
Go to our sponsors, Edward Life Sciences. Go to their campus. And all of that is in your face. There's a wellness center. There's people playing sport at lunchtime. It's great to see.
Meditation pods, like stuff like that. I mean,
healthcare is an important industry, and we are in need of a facelift.
And let me put a plug in for a connection, because you talked about that and it won't take a long time, but we're connecting in different ways, I think, than we did. I believe you guys when you talk about that connection, the camaraderie that you have had, and for me, when you have the analogy for me is, when a dog is sad or afraid, they either lash out or they go into themselves, and I think we need to think about when we see that in our colleagues to say something. And because but it can be scary too to deal with somebody who is angry or frustrated, and to deal with somebody who's crying in the corner. But I agree. There's and I can go to social media and these phones that we're using all the time. But there is a human disconnect somewhere, and I wonder what we can do about that too.
Yeah. It's an interesting question, and I hope we keep having more conversations about it, because I think it's really important. It's what's going to keep us going. Really, and as you said, as technology is coming along the way, we got to figure out how to integrate all of it and make it all work. So, Tjorvi, thank you so much. Yeah. This has been just a phenomenal conversation that I'm so glad that we can sit here and have it with you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing. Those thoughts. Hopefully we can do it again.
Absolutely.
And talk about some other cool things, because I know you're into a lot of different things.
Sounds good.
Come back around to this.
Yep.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Desiree.
TopMedTalk.
It's Desiree Chappell here. Just a quick reminder, subscribe to TopMedTalk. We're a daily source of news and conversation focused on perioperative care. We bring you all the latest talk from all the major conferences in the perioperative space. We can also be found on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we now have a free mailing list with special offers and additional goodies for subscribers. Go check us out at TopMedTalk.com. That's www.topmedtalk.com.